Hello, how are you all? As Rob said, my name is Jamie Thredder, Deputy Project Director for Downer, working on the Waurn line upgrade. My first slide, number 13, is really probably just a recap of what Liam's already covered, which is the scope for the project. Probably more importantly, from a Downer perspective, is while we're required to deliver some outputs for the state around additional services, future freight capacity, crossing loops, and an improved level of infrastructure on the waterable line with a signalling system that will improve the safety greatly. Ultimately for us and for our engagement with you guys, the suppliers, it's really what that means in terms of civil, signalling, electrical, CCTV, design, and all the sort of support that we need across the corridor as one of the first major regional upgrades of this sort of size, especially in the Waurn South region. So ultimately, as discussed, apart from a station in Geelong, which we're doubling the size of capacity with a second track, second platform, pedestrian overpass link, and double the size of a car park, integrating into the local region. We are upgrading the signalling, which currently stops at Geelong, at Waurn Ponds, all the way through to Warrnambool. So there is in excess of 30 kilometres sort of CSR and signalling a new cable route along the corridor, which is a very significant effort. As well as at Balkan, 2/3 of the way up the line, we're putting a passing loop to enable trains to cross, which is going to give the benefit of the extra service, and then integrate into the Warrnambool yard at the end. It's probably the next part is around design. So Downer has got a partnership with two major design houses who have formed a JV between each other, ACOM and Arcadis. So they'll be working with us on the design to help support civil, structural, CCTV, ICT, and all elements of design, essentially excluding signalling. Downer is lucky enough as one of the only major contractors to have an in-house rail system signalling group, as well as an in-house system assurance group. So those two functions will be performed by Downer with an integrated team, and they will work and are currently working collaboratively with the AAJV to make sure that we have a full design pack to meet the requirements of this project. They're currently based in the city, and we've got a city office in Collins Street there, currently empty given the circumstances, but everyone has been able to work remotely and maintain the current targets that they've got to be on site and start working and doing major works by the middle of this year. The main thing for us to deliver as a contractor for RPV is this is a design and construct contract. So unlike some of the others which are on the lines, we're working with RPV with a very specific set of deliverables and specifications and standards in a document called the Project Scope and Technical Requirements. And the main task for us is to deliver on that very specifically, and then anything that sits outside of that, obviously work with RPV and the state to try and find out the best way to resolve any issues. This slide gives you a bit of an idea on the timeframes, which Liam touched on before. Probably the main ones to note is we've already started on the project. We've actually been out on site in the last couple of weeks doing some early investigation works with some non-destructive digging, geotech and some surveying. But that is to enable the permanent works which do commence on site June, July this year is the target. And then we'll be mobilised with sites, site huts, and a larger physical presence, subject to how we're going with COVID-19 and some of the challenges. By the end of next year, August 21, a majority of the scope is to be completed, and that includes the station, the signalling, and the passing loop. And there is then the Waurn Ponds stabling facility, which we're due to start designing later this year, be on site early next year, and that's due to wrap up in February 2022 as a separable portion. So that'll sort of run concurrently, kicking off later in the year, but at the moment we're doing the majority of the scope, which is the upgrade of the Warrnambool line from one end to the other.